What's up YouTube? This is Twilight Specter, bringing you my Weather Painter deck profile for 2022. And this deck is a really fun deck that uses a very interesting and unique mechanic, which is powering up your monsters using spells. And there is not really any other deck like it, which I think makes it stand out. Not to mention that the artwork is really beautiful, and with the new support they got recently, I think the deck has gotten a massive boost. Definitely could see it getting a lot of casual use, especially at like locals and things like that, because I just think it's finally gotten the power that it deserves and needed. But I will show you the deck profile, starting with the monsters. We run 3 Weather Painter Snow. Snow is something you always want to open up with. Basically, when it's normal summoned, you can place the Weather Spell and Trap, which is any of them from your deck, into your Spell and Trap zone. So, another unique mechanic about this deck is the fact that instead of activating cards from your deck, it places them, which is really good. It can get past hand traps such as Ash Blossom, which is a very common card used in the meta these days, or just casually. But the fact that it places is a really awesome effect. It just bypasses so many things, and it gets the deck running. And also, a generic effect with every Weather Painter monster is that once per turn during the standby phase, after this card was managed to activate a weather card effect, you can special summon it. So every monster that activates its effect using a Weather Painter spell can come back during the next standby phase, so you always have reoccurring monsters, which is really awesome. But Snow, with her being the start of the deck, you always want to see her at 3. Next, you run 3 the Weather Painter Thunder. So again, it has a generic effect of coming back on the next standby phase, but this unique effect is that you can send any face-up continuous spell or trap to the graveyard to activate any of the weather spell or trap from your deck. So you can turn a card like Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen, which allows you to special summon a fairy, to get Thunder out for free, and then to trade it off for one of your Weather Painter's spell and traps from your deck. Again, this card is really good and combos with a lot of cards in the deck, and that is exactly why we run it at 3 also. The next card we run is 3 the Weather Painter Cloud. This card is much more important now, combined with the new field spell we recently got. So this card's unique effect is that if any face or weather card, which can be monster, spell, or trap, is sent to the graveyard, you can place up to 2 the weather spell and traps from your graveyard into your spell and traps zone. So this card is really good, especially with the new field spell, which I will get to when we get to that card. But the fact that it allows you to place up to 2 is really good. So if your opponent, like Twin Twisters, your back row, you can basically get them back for free. It is a really good card, and I definitely recommend putting that at 3. But you can bump it down to 2 if you really want, to make space for other cards in the deck. Well, that's why I run Weather Painter Cloud at 3. The next card I run is 2 Weather Painter Sun. So this card basically has the effect that while it's in the graveyard, you can send any face-up continuous spell or trap to the graveyard to special summon it in defense. But then you have to place a weather spell and trap from your hand into the spell and trap zone. So he's good because if you link summon a monster, he basically gets himself back out the graveyard again, back in defense, so you have resources. So he's really good, but definitely not needed at 3, seeing as his special summon is a once per turn, but we run him at 2, just because consistency of seeing him. The next card I run at 1 is the Weather Painter Aurora. She is a really good card for the deck. She protects all your weather canvases, your back row, from being targeted or destroyed by card effects, which is really good. And she has another effect, which is that if she's normal summoned, you can place a weather spell trap from your hand, deck, or graveyard into the zone. But the only problem with that is that she's level 6, so you have to tribute summon for her, but it doesn't happen that often. But we run her for the back row and also the fact that she's got one of the highest main deck attacks for the Weather Painters. And that's why we run her at 1. And the last card for the Weather Painter Monsters lineup, we run 1 Rain. She's probably the weakest of the Weather Painters, but we run at 1 just because she does come up and does make some really funny plays sometimes, which is if she's special summon by any means, you can place a weather spell or trap from your hand into your spell and trap zone. So, turn 1, you can activate the traps from your hand if you have them, but most of the time you won't be special summoning rain because there are other targets which are more important to get the deck going. That's why I run out of 1. The next card I run is 2 Hecatrice, because Valhalla Hall of the Fallen is a very important card in this deck. Getting that free special summon and trading off with Thunder for another canvas is really, really good. And we want to see it in our opening hand, so Hecatrice is a definite 2 of. And that's it for all the monsters. Moving on to the spell cards, we have the brand new The Weather Forecast spell card. This card, I feel, has fixed the deck in so many ways. Basically, upon activation, you can place a weather spell or trap canvas from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. This card gives this deck a massive boost of consistency. Getting any canvas from your deck and activating it, whether it's spell or trap, is so good. But not only that, but it has another amazing effect, which is that you can use your canvas spell and traps as link material for a link summon for a weather painter monster. That is incredible. Combined with Cloud, you can get your resources back in link summon for just 1 card. It is really, really strong. And then, the highlight of the cake is that you can get an additional normal summon during your turn for a weather painter monster. Like, this field spell does so much and it's so incredible. You always want to see this card. It boosts the deck to absurd levels. And it's just so good. Like, honestly, you need to run it at 3. It's so important for the deck. The next card I run is the next best card for the painters, which is 3, The Weather Snowy Canvas. So this card basically searches your whole deck. Every canvas card has the effect which is, it gives the monster the effect of the spell card, and every time they have to activate an effect, they banish themselves to the banish zone to activate the effect. So this card basically lets you add any weather card from your deck to your hand, but has a restriction of you cannot add cards from your deck to your hand except by drawing them. So you basically can only search with this card once per turn, which is really good to get the pieces you need to start your deck off, but the limitation of not being able to search for any other card for the deck really is a hindrance. But the good thing is, you should do most of your searching, if any, before you activate this card. So definitely 3 of, and it's really good. Next card I run is 1 Cloudy Canvas. This is the most versatile one because you can activate it at any point to banish your monsters. So if your opponent's going to destroy them, you can just banish them, target a monster, and basically what it does is it halves the monster's attack, but it can attack directly. So it can be used offensively and defensively, which is amazing. So you can half your opponent's monster if you're getting attacked in trade for a direct attack, or if you're trying to beat over a monster, you can half its attack, or you can attack directly for some extra damage. It's so versatile, but we only need it at 1 because every canvas card has the ability, which is you can only control 1 of each canvas and no more than 1. So it's really good. But another effect which I haven't mentioned is that it gives monsters in the zone in front and to each side. So it gives up to 3 monsters. Usually this effect, so it's really good. Definitely very versatile, and that's why we run it at 1. The next one is Rainy Canvas. So again, this card has all the effects, which is can only control 1, and gives the monsters in front and in the adjacent zones the same effect, which is you can banish that card to target a spell and trap your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Sometimes it's good to bounce stuff instead of destroying it, such as if your opponent uses a card like Magician's Soul, where they can special summon a monster and it makes all Dark Magicians unaffected by card effects. But if it leaves the field, it'll destroy a Dark Magician, so if you bounce it back to your hand, your opponent loses their board. It's pretty funny. And I really like this card at 1, and it is literally our back row move for the deck, mainly. And next card, which is the niche, the very underwhelming canvas, which is Sunny. This card it's basically kind of like Sun. You banish your monster, tribute a monster to special summon a weather from your hand or graveyard, but not with the same name. It's not the greatest. most of the time you don't have a weather in your graveyard, but getting it from your hand can be nice, but again, the cost is too steep, I think, and that's why we only want it at 1. The next card for spells, which is not a weather card, is 3 Piri Reis Map. I was so excited when this card came out, and the first card I thought of was the Weather Painter Snow. This card basically lets you, at the start of your main phase ward, add any monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand. The only problem is you have to pay off your life points, and you can't use the monster's effects unless you normal summon it that turn. But since we're setting snow, we're going to be normal summon there most of the time anyway. So this card basically gets you snow, and that is the most important part of this card. And that is exactly why I run it at 3. Helps with consistency. The next card I run is 3 Valhalla Hall of the Fallen. So again, this card is really good combined with Thunder. You get Thunder out for free, trade it off for a canvas. It's basically kind of like a second snow, but you need 2 cards rather than just 1. But it's good for getting the board full again. It's good for just starting your first turn. It's a very versatile card in this deck, and that's why we run it at 3. The next card we run is a Floodgate. We run Dimensional Fissure. We can turn it off and on whenever we like. We can use the Thunder Painter to send it to the graveyard for a canvas. And also, banishing cards in this deck isn't much of a problem, really. And to be fair, it's a really good card in this deck, and that's why we run it at 1. The next card we run is Terraforming. Got to get that weather forecast, it's so important. And just to round up the spells, I run 1 Dark Ruler No More. Sometimes your opponent has a lot of negates, it's good to run this card. Negate other monsters so you can set up your plays, but most of the time with weather painters you want to go first so you can set up your negates. So that's why I run it at 1. And that's it for the spells. For the traps we run 2 the Weather Thundery canvas. This is in my opinion, the second best canvas in the deck, because it has the effect that during damage step, whether you're attacking and your opponent battles a monster you control, you can banish it to return your opponent's monsters in hand. So it's non-targeting removal that doesn't destroy. This card is absolutely nuts. It's so good in this deck, and you always want it on board, and that's why we run it at 2. The next card we run is 2 the Weather Rainbow canvas, which basically means and does. You can banish a Weather Painter monster while your opponent controls a monster to special summon any other Weather Painter monster from your deck. So it's good to get monsters on board to fill your board up, so you banish it, and then you get one out for free. Next time by phase you get another monster, so you get 2. It's really good, and also good for setting up a bigger board for more resources. The next card I run is 1 Macrocosmos. I mean, again, we can turn it off and on with Thunder Painter. And not only that, but it's a floodgate for any card. And it's really good. And that's why I run it at 1. And the last card we run is 2 Drowning Mirror Force. Weather Painters can banish themselves, and then most of the time you can have an open field with no monster board. And your opponent won't expect this. Just shuffle back all your opponent's attack position monsters back into the deck. It's just so funny when it goes off. The next standby phase, you get all your monsters back, and that's polygame at that point. But that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Bearing in mind that it's a 40 card main deck after all. Moving on to the extra deck, we are going to run 3 of my favourite monster, the Weather Painter Rainbow. This card is absolutely bonkers. It basically gives you 3 negates. Well, 3 negates of any card or effect. And also she contributes herself to negate a special summon. This card is insanely good. I love it. Combined with the new field spell, you can use your canvases. If you're Cloud on board, you get your canvases back, and you can link someone there for 1 monster most of the time. It's really silly. But basically, the arrows that she points to, she gives the monsters this effect, which is you can banish that monster when a card or effect is activated to negate that card and destroy it. Which is so good. First turn, if you get 2 monsters on board, you get 2 negates during your opponent's turn for free. 2 negates and a negate summon. This card is bonkers. You have to run it at 3. She's so accessible to get out now. And I love the card art, she's so beautiful. The next we run is the new link monster for the deck, which is Moonbow. Now, she's really good in the fact that when she's linked someone, you can target a weather painter that's in the banish zone and special summon it, which is really, really good. And with her link arrow, she gives the ability of the weather painters below the effect to banish themselves to banish a card, banish a monster, sorry, your opponent controls until the next standby phase. So basically, you banish your opponent's monsters just like the weather painters banish themselves. I only run out of 2. I would suggest bumping up to 3, seeing as there's only 2 weather painter link monsters, because you can run Pot of Extravagance for extra draw power, and making sure you always have at least 1 copy of each painter link is very important. Next, for the next link monsters, we run 1 Light Charmer, 1 Water, Wind, Fire, and Earth. Now, these Charmers are very useful for the fact that you can take your opponent's monsters from their graveyard, and also all your weather painters all different attributes. So it's really, really useful. And also, if they get destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can search for any of your painters from your deck, which is really, really, really good. But again, it's just because the extra deck is very customizable with this deck, you can run pretty much anything you like. Next, I run 1 Phoenix and 1 Unicorn, because shuffle and also back row removal. I mean, the deck doesn't have any back removal apart from Rain, but if you need to get rid of a card, this is the card to go to. If you need a card gone, Unicorn's the other alternative. But that's it for the Knightmares. Last but not least, we run 3 rank 3s. We run Breaksword, because it's good removal. Dante, get cards in the graveyard. Canvases can be really useful in there. Sun, if you get Sun in the graveyard, can be really useful, sets him up. And the last one we run is Levier, because if you've got a weather painter that's been banished by anything other than itself, you can get it back. So it's really, really good. But that's it for the deck. And just so you know, this is a 15 card extra deck, but you can customize it any way you like, because there's so much you can do with it. But that is my weather painter deck profile, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Like, suggest any other cards you would run in here. Like, you can run like Pot of Extravagance by taking some cards out, which is a really, really good alternative. But the problem with Pot of Extravagance is you have to use it during the start of your main phase 1, and it's same with Piri as Map, so you can only activate 1 Idea, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, like, it's risk reward. You risk drawing 2 cards or searching for your snow if you don't have her in hand. But it's a really good deck. I definitely recommend picking it up because it's rather cheap. It's a really, really fun deck too. It's used the unique mechanic, which is obviously the spells giving the monsters effects, and then it's treated as a monster effect, which is really, really awesome. But definitely pick the deck up and tell me what you think of the deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sorry that I may sound a bit off. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, and I've not uploaded recently because of the same reason. But I really hope you enjoyed the deck profile, and that's Twilight Specter out.